When I was in art school, the first year they have what they call the foundation program, where you work in all different mediums. And the artists, the older students whose work that I was attracted to most were textile artists. So I knew that that's what I wanted to do. In quilting, you have quilts that are yardage, that is a whole piece of cloth that's not have borders or pieces sewn onto it. So it's a whole piece of cloth. Whereas other pieces have maybe strips sewn together to make a whole, or patches sewn together to make a whole. I do portraits. They're usually based on photographs, and the photographs that I'm attracted to are mostly head-on, direct shots. I don't use a lot of profiles or three-quarter views. So I guess it's sort of expected, but yeah, the ones that, photographs that speak most to me are the ones that are head-on shots. I read a lot of books, magazines, newspapers, and I'll see graphics in the newspaper. So I'll clip out photographs, or I clip out color combinations or design patterns, and I know that I'm going to use those in the future. So usually it starts with a photograph or a sample of a design or a pattern. When I first started doing textiles, I was using dyes, powdered dyes that I would thicken and use as a paint. And then you would set the colors, and then you would wash out the part that stiffened the colors. But using dyes is very complicated and very toxic, because when you ingest the powders, it goes into your respiratory system. So using paints just made it a lot more economical and more non-toxic. You always have an idea of what it's going to be, but it sort of tells you what it wants to be.
One of the things I think for myself, to express myself, I would experiment with different materials. Glass is the only one I did not. You know, I work with metal, with fiber, recycled materials, paint, clay. I think that I will have to get to glass next. It is not how things get wrong. They get wrong all the time. Like, you know, you do pieces and they don't turn out the way I was expecting to. But not giving up, just going and doing it again and again and again until it feels good and almost natural to work with that material. Each of material, and I learned it, especially when I started to work with metal, you cannot force materials. You have to work with them. They have to become kind of your friend, and then they will do whatever, you know, the kind of collaboration with the material. You cannot be forcing it. You have to take it and work with it. You know, there are some pieces which are never finished. It is, you know, I work on a piece, and you know, some of them I feel that there is a certain feeling. You know, they kind of start to talk back to you, and they're, you know, you feel it feels right. And it can be sometimes piece I do like in 20 minutes, and suddenly it's there, and it's complete, and it feels right. There are pieces, I have them in my studio, and it's like, no, and I have to go back to it and start to like paint all over it, or refelt it, or do things to it, and some pieces takes years before they are finished, and some pieces they are done right away. Well, there is a lot of next because I don't have anything, so it's like clean slate. But there was like a huge studio space, full of art. Now there is none. So if I look at it positively, I now have a lot of space to fill. I don't have a studio space yet, but to create again, I like to have a lot of work, because if there is a show, I like to have pieces to choose from, that there would be certain flow and continuity. So I will have to fill up this, making new places, making new pieces. And what I like about art is actually the process. So once it's done, it's there in the world. It's like, you're a grown-up child. You take care of it, you kind of lead it, and then it's in the world. So that's the same as my artwork. Once I finish it, it's there for the world to take it, and I can start with a new piece.
I'm exhibiting cast glass pieces that are sort of inspired by some Mexican folk tradition called photoesculturas, photo sculpture, and those are. These are dedicated to birds. That some are. We're losing a lot of birds in climate change, so I wanted to do something that was dedicated to them. I've been using glass for 50 years, but I've used all kinds of different medium, and a lot of it is like glass isn't appropriate for what I want to do. I mean, I try to, because I have ideas, my ideas don't fit into a material always. So it's like I look for the material that will function in what I want to achieve. Some of them are outdoor pieces that need to last a long time by the weather and by people coming up and abusing them, so they can't all be made out of glass. And every material has its own sort of sensibility. So that's part of trying to deal with what you want to do with your idea. So most every piece I do, unless it's a public piece where I have done a prototype beforehand, I don't know how it's going to end up. So it's like if I knew how everything was going to turn out, I don't think I'd do it anymore. So I have to have that room to fail and to maneuver and to find something that's exciting within that process. I mean, for me, the whole process for me is looking for joy and trying to cultivate faith. In affirmation of this experience of living. Yeah.